guys, I'm Zara from the upcoming. It's lovely to speak to you both. Congratulations on this brilliant series. Why did you think it was important for you to tell this story, bring it to screen, and how did your collaboration between you both come about?
I think the importance of it and this exploration for it is really about wanting to see what it was like for these people in the space between, and not just telling things through the prism of crime, criminal, perpetrator, victim, but really like what are the rest of the moments of their lives? What can we imagine them to be? What can we infer them to be? And what inspired by this story? How can we build out this family drama and explore, what to me are just immensely relatable themes and immensely timely themes. And I just think there's and it just there's something about power and privilege at the heart of this that I think is ultimately felt like it was worth dramatizing again, but within a family instead of these big huge power structures that are across the world, but just what is it in this one little corner of the world. And I think that was something that was really important to us to try to get to the emotionality of who these characters were.
I just don't think you could find a more fascinating case and something that truly is unthinkable and unbelievable. And so I, as a human being that wants to understand human nature and the sort of the underside and the depravity that lives in us all, I'm very fun at dinner parties. That
you are. You would appreciate it. It's like an interview in a fun way. Every dinner is.
I just had to know more. I had to sink years in my life of like, what happened to Maggie? What happened to Paul? How many exit routes could this have taken before this happened? And so it just sort of haunted me before, during, and after we worked together. I just don't think it's a case that will ever leave me.
Yeah, and to your question of how our collaboration came together. So I'm born and raised South Carolina native, and I was just as so many were, but especially being from there, and I knew of the Murdaugh name. I didn't know them personally. I grew up about an hour away from where all this took place, but it's just one of those names that in the ether of the state, and I was just taken with it. And I'm being a television writer and producer, it felt like, okay, someone's going to take a swing at doing a scripted dramatization of this story. And I really felt an obligation to at least do it because I felt like I understood this community. I understood these people to an extent. And it felt like you need a level of responsibility to do this for any true crime adaptation, but especially, for me, this one. And so I, felt like I wanted to take a swing at it. And I happened to ask one of my good friends who's a writer who did, Brett Johnson, who did Escape from Dannemora with Patricia. I just happened to ask him. I said, "Hey, how did you guys just used like the case files and the trial transcripts?" And I called him and he said, "Yes." He said, "Is this about Murdaugh?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said he had just worked with Nick Antosca on Candy, who is our executive producer, and Nick's obviously incredibly accomplished and brilliant showrunner himself. He said, "Let me put you in touch with Nick." And Nick was already with Erin trying to find someone who could help adapt Mandy's podcast. And so there was this kind of kismet serendipitous thing where like all praise and love to Brett Johnson who facilitated that connection, and just because he said I told Nick that my friend Michael is who you should talk to about this. He's from South Carolina, he gets it. And then I had the good fortune to meet with Erin. We clicked right away, I think, in terms of her approach to, and I'll just brag on her for a second, but just like her approach to all of her work is so victim forward and so like female driven. And I think that was something that with this story was really important to do, because that's something we get to do that other explorations haven't necessarily done.
And I'll just say, when Michael D. Fuller popped up, I did a 12-page research document, and I watched his like absolutely fantastic show, Quarry, and I just was like struck by the authenticity, but also like, I know this, like, you may cut it out, but like, strong feminist, has two girls, really nice husband of somebody so lovely. And I was like, I never thought of myself as like working directly with a man as a partner. And I was like, but he's the good one, like, so I was just like so humbled and so honored. And it was a very inclusive process.
Well, obviously being inclusive, what was it like having Mandy Matney on board and on set with you guys? I mean, that's very unique to have that.
Erin was our Mandy whisperer.
I think that like she is just like what every girl wishes she could be, and I think that audiences should really take a lot. Like, you're somebody who's working as a local journalist, you see something and people tell you stay away from that, these people will get you. And she and Liz Farrell, her reporting partner, said, no, I'm going to stand up to these bullies and I'm going to do it. And here she sits, and like, we were always really trying to tell her, like, it's probably not going to happen. The sheer statistics of a show getting green lit right now after COVID, we were during the strikes, all these different things, it's really, really minimal. So like, we want you to keep your expectations on the lower side. And then to see her last night in her glam pink dress, and she was like, we did it. And I was like, you started it. You know what I mean? And so, and the fact that we got Brittany motherfucking Snow to play Mandy, like
the coup of coups.
Yeah. Such brilliant and smart women that add so much complexity. And people think the Murdaughs are all about the men. It's not.
Talking about casting, I mean, that casting process, you've got a brilliant ensemble cast, Patricia, Arquette, Jason. I mean, how did that come about? Did you always have them in mind, or how did that happen?
It's interesting. So Nick Antosca, our show, he worked with Patricia. He wrote and produced The Act, and he obviously worked to great effect with her. And knowing that it was important to us to explore this. We've talked about it some and others, but it's like Patricia Arquette chooses you. And we were like, when we found out that it was even remotely a possibility, it was. And then in talking to her and just what she when we first met with her and what she was able to illuminate about Maggie, just from her, because she, like so many, was obsessed with the story and her, her interpretation and what she was inspired by to formulate in terms of what she wanted to do with the character. It was incredible. And I mean, she's, you just, there's you can't get anyone better when you're trying to cast anything than Patricia Arquette, and just her professionalism and her artistry and her dedication to craft. And so yeah, she chose us, and it was in a way that it's like, and I think it's just like right age, right time, right. And it's such an interesting kind of departure from so many of the things she's been doing to such great effect lately, where she's playing a little bit more of, she realizes it beautifully, but it's this woman who's been put in this sort of cage and box for so long, and just now starting to rattle a little bit. And like, how does she carry herself? How does she present to the world? What does she keep inside? What is she realizing she's been keeping inside? And that's all just Patricia doing, her thing. And yeah, she's terrific. And then, Jason Clarke, it's, Alec Murdaugh, the real Alec Murdaugh, has a profile. People have heard him speak. They know what he looks like, how he carries himself. And so you can't just take an actor and put him in, it's a very short list, and it's pretty much just Jason Clarke who could embody that. And then that's just, a thought you have, and then you get the opportunity to actually realize that. And I think, the two of them together are just powerhouses, and they feel like they go together, and they had such affection for each other on set. It was really cool to see, and just watch the privilege of getting to watch them work every day was just incredible.
And the only thing I'll add is that we were able to work with John Papsadera, who's known as the casting cowboy, and then Brad and Steven at UCP, who helped with the casting. And like, we have such a complete insane all-star cast because of like those folks, and just like they just like brought the heat. And so we are it takes a village, and Michael and I are very proud to be all gussied up and to be talking about the show. But like, we got a lot of these actors because a lot of people put in some really hard work.
Yep. Absolutely. And then it just becomes an avalanche too. You get Patricia and Jason, and then that attracts others. And the next thing you know, there's J. Smith Cameron, who I previously worked with on a show called Rectify and had a connection with. And, and then obviously Johnny and Will, who play Paul and Buster. And, it all came together so wonderfully. And yeah, that's really a testament to our incredible casting team.
Yeah, it really did come together so well. I loved it, and hope everyone loves it as much as me. Thank you so much for talking to me. It's brilliant.
Thank you.
Well done, guys.
Thank you so much.